Hello, I'm Helga and today I'm going to present my motion about why classical economics is right what matters in the long run. But first, I will try to explain it. The classical economics model has a fundamental principle, and it's that it's self-regulating. The model is a representation that by assuming certain assumptions, such as free market, perfect competition, or firms producing at their maximum capacity, they show us the relationship between employment, output, wages, and prices in the long run. Due to that, the model focuses on the supply side and says that the output of an economy, the GDP of an economy that we studied previously, just depends on its productivity. But how does it happen? When an economy is above trends, we expect prices to increase, inflation to increase, and real wages to increase. And that would be great. But then, the increased prices are going to reduce the degree of consumption of households, and so firms are going to hire less people and lower the wages. And then, when an economy is below trends, then the wages are low and firms can start hiring more people and it will all end up to normal. Once that is said, we can believe what this theory supports and say that once there is supply for workplaces, there is demand for workplaces and for products. But what if this doesn't happen and we have recession? Then the theory says to do nothing that isn't on the supply side. The only thing that the government needs to make so that the economy of a country works is to try to increase the supply of employment, with, for example, give aids to companies to ensure they can create workplaces or promote research and development grants or even create jobs in public services. By knowing that, we can say that the classical view sees the supply as inelastic in the long run, just as it is shown on the graph. In here, the diagonal line is the aggregate demand, which if it increases, it will only cause inflation and not increase GDP at all. And the vertical line is the long-run aggregate supply that will not be affected by prices, but just affected by factors of production such as physical capital, human capital, natural resources, and technological knowledge, which we see in the production function and that will give the output. But what do we say when there is unemployment? Because it's caused by the supply side. Then the model says that in the short term, if you focus on increasing the aggregate demand, maybe you can reduce unemployment. But that in the long term, once the wages are adjusted, the unemployment rate will also return to the natural rate. And so, focusing on demand isn't good in the long run. The reason for that is that we need to make it with the assumption that prices and wages are flexible and that in the long term the market will be efficient. Say that we have a decrease in the demand. Then, by following the model, we obtain that the wages will also fall, but that in the long term, these low wages will assure that there is full employment, as then the low wages will create employment again. This is showed in the graph that you can see in the slide, where we can see that first we had employment equilibrium where W1 and Q3 meet, but once there is unemployment, the demand equilibrium decreases until Q1 and WE meet. To summarize up, let's say that there are two important points on the classical economics. The first one is to let the market free to operate, and with that, at the end, it will all resolve on its own due to self-regulation. And the second one is to focus on the supply side, which policies will promote the long-term economic growth. And finally, thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed the presentation and that you understood it well. And here are the references I used for my presentation. Bye!